Good morning, my Real News Media TV family. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning, and I'm wishing for everyone a wonderful and a productive day. And in the news this morning, curfew imposed in Georges Valley, Manchester. Police are reporting that a curfew will be imposed in the community of Georges Valley, Manchester, following Sunday night's deadly gun attack on 53-year-old Carlton Lewis. A police source told the news that the curfew will start at 6 p.m. on Monday and end at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Based on the recent spate of violent crimes in the Georges Valley community and its environs, the division's intelligence investigative arms have conducted inquiries, investigation, surveillance exercises. Information has so far revealed that the recent spate of violent crimes in the community is because of interpersonal disputes between rival gangsters, the sources said. The boundaries are as follows. Northern boundary bordered by Newhall District. From a roadway at Woodlawn, Georges Valley at the northern boundary, 1,142 meters along an imaginary line, to a section of roadway at Richmond Community at the eastern boundary. Eastern boundary bordered by Richmond District. From the roadway at Newhall District at the northern boundary, 1,128 meters along an imaginary line, to the road at the Midday Main Road at the southern boundary. Southern boundary bordered by Midday District. From the main road at the Midday District at the eastern boundary, 1,246 meters along an imaginary line, to another section of roadway at Midday District, Mandeville at the western boundary. Western boundary bordered by Mandeville area. From the roadway in the vicinity of Midday area at the western boundary, 1,153 meters along an imaginary line, to the roadway at Woodlawn, Georges Valley at the northern boundary. Persons are reminded that during the hours of the curfew, all persons within the boundaries of the curfew are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized in writing by the ground commander. Keith Clark's widow testifies under intense cross-examination. During intense cross-examination by King's Counsel Valerie Nita Robertson on Monday, Dr. Claudette Clark admitted that she did not see if her husband, accountant Keith Clark, had fired his licensed firearm at members of the security forces on May 27, 2010, when he was shot dead in his house by soldiers. Dr. Clark is the first witness in the trial of 3 Jamaica Defense Force soldiers who were charged in 2012 with murder in relation to the shooting death of her husband. Dr. Clark was shot numerous times in the back during a police military operation in 2010 aimed at capturing then-fugitive Christopher Dudus Coke, who was wanted in the United States on drugs and weapons charges. During her testimony, Dr. Clark insisted that Coke and the 7 other men were not being harbored at her house in Kirkland Heights, St. Andrew, where the incident took place. The soldiers on trial are Lance Corporals Greg Tinglin and Odell Buckley and the Private Arnold Henry. Nita Robertson is representing Tinglin. Dr. Clark said that when gunfire started to erupt outside her house on the night in question, she first told her daughter to get under a bed because she and her husband were afraid. She said she was trying to keep her husband by her side for his safety, but he insisted on doing otherwise. Yes, I held on to him and he said he had to go because he wasn't going to allow criminals to come in and kill us off. I held on to him because I was trying to protect him. Yes, madam, I saw him with his licensed firearm in his hand, and I was aware he went out in the front entrance room with it. He left the bedroom and came back while my daughter and I were in the master bathroom hiding. When he went out there were explosions. Dr. Clark said before explaining that she did not see what happened when her husband went to the entrance room of the house because she was locked inside the room. Nita Robertson further grilled the witness, probing whether she was aware that gunmen were challenging the security forces outside her house on the night her husband was killed and that Cook and his men were staying in her basement that night. No, madam, I don't know that person. I wasn't harboring Dudus and 7 other men that night. He was not at my house. Dr. Clark then asked, I know there is a law calling harboring fugitive, so why wasn't I arrested since I was also living at the house? Nita Robertson shot back, telling Dr. Clark that she was fortunate in that case to not have been arrested. The attorney then asked Dr. Clark whether she was aware that a bullet from her husband's firearm was taken from the foot of one of the soldiers. "I was not aware that men outside fired at the military helicopter. No men were staying in my basement, and I was not aware that a bullet from my husband's gun was found in one of the soldiers." Dr. Clark told the 7-member jury that she was only made aware that the soldiers and the police were outside in her yard after she spoke to her neighbor on the phone. She said it seemed as if there was a lot of police and soldiers out there. "I told my husband. He didn't reject it. But he said if it was police and soldiers, they don't operate that way," Dr. Clark testified. Peter Champagne Casey, who is representing Buckley, began his cross-examination of the witness on Monday, seeking to tear apart the evidence given by Dr. Clark. In an affidavit, Dr. Clark had stated that her husband was unlawfully killed by police and the soldiers who were acting as agents of the Jamaican government. Champagne suggested to her that she did not know who shot her husband. Dr. Clark couldn't say definitively how many soldiers in total entered the bedroom where her husband was shot. She admitted that seconds before her husband was shot, events unfolded very quickly and she did not get the chance to count how many soldiers were in the room. "Yes, sir, I would agree with you. I didn't count how many of them," she said. "My husband was shot on the ground. I had no time to count numbers," she added, admitting that she had indicated a number in her affidavit in relation to the soldiers who came into her bedroom. "Yes, sir, I gave a statement saying about 5 or 6 soldiers came into the room before my husband was shot," she said. Champagne then went on to quiz Dr. Clark about whether it had rained the day her husband was killed and whether there was red dirt in her area, as is synonymous with many parts of Red Hills, St. Andrew. He asked Dr. Clark that since she testified that the soldiers climbed onto her bed before opening fire on her husband, why were there no shoe prints on the bed or the sheets? He also tackled her about the number of soldiers she said jumped on the bed. "Sir, it happened so fast. I did not count how many soldiers entered. I just know that soldiers jumped on the bed. I did not stop to count," she said. Champagne chided Dr. Clark for attempting to beat around the bush every time he asked her a question. He asked her whether she had put in her affidavit that her husband fired at the security forces, but insisted that she did not see him fire a gun. Dr. Clark responded that she never said so on previous occasions. However, after Champagne showed her a copy of the affidavit, Dr. Clark said, "After seeing a copy, I said so, but I didn't see him. I did not lie on my husband. After I watched the news, I heard that soldiers were injured. I knew he left the room with his firearm in his hand, so that is why I made the statement. I did not see him because I didn't follow him out." The trial continues today. Golden again calls out the Prime Minister over uncertified statutory declarations. People's National Party President Mark Golding has questioned the leadership of Prime Minister Andrew Holness in light of his uncertified statutory declarations. The Integrity Commission has said it is not able to certify Mr. Holness's statutory declaration for 2021. It has also not certified his 2022 declaration. Addressing supporters at the Gill Division's annual conference in St. Mary on Sunday, Mr. Golden accused the governing Jamaica Labour Party of trying to fool the people with distractions and antics. Citing the recent questions surrounding his British citizenship, he criticized the JLP for trying to use that issue to attack him. But he insisted the PNP will not be daunted, as according to him, the country lacks a leadership.
Them already start with them antics. Them start with them distraction. Them trying to fool the people in all kind of ways. We're not going to be fooled. Country needs leadership with integrity. The country needs leadership that the people can have trust and confidence in. We need a Prime Minister whose Integrity Commission statutory declarations can be certified and published in accordance with law. We have not put any ban or gag order on any of our MPs or senators talking about Integrity Commission issues. The country is watching while he goes on with his distraction and his antics, while his Integrity Commission filings can't be certified. And they know that we have to get out the Jamaica Labour Party because they have lost their way. So comrades, the JLP are reeling from the blow that they received. Worse now after that, when the budget debate was on and they walked out of their own parliament and left us without a quorum, and I had to finish my speech on Duke Street on a old wall reminiscent of 1938, and we polled the country afterwards. The PNP 8 points ahead of the Jamaica Labour Party. Comrades are coming from way behind in those 2 years, moving from 13 behind to 8 ahead. So we are in a place now, comrades, where we can move to take back Jamaica House.
Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news,